You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, got in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy Gianlutis, and guys, after 300 weeks, we have episode 302 right now consistently, and we're bringing you the momentum, and we're bringing you another incredible special guest. Someone who has her master's in education from Cambridge College, focusing in applied behavior analysis, to then being board certified in behavior analysis. But guys, on top of all that, what we're going to talk about today is she just wrote her first children's book, titled, If You Give a Kid Some Kindness. Guys, I give you Aubrianne Buckley. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
Yeah. And I read your book. You sent it to me the other day, and I love it because this is going to bring so much goodness to parents, but kids as well, but it's going to spread so much light. So in this entire aspect, how did you get to the point where, like, you know what? I'm going to write a children's book.
Honestly, I don't even know. I think that it all started when everything kind of stopped with COVID, and I would just be doing random things and just sit down and like think of something, like think of like a blurb, and I would just like write it down. Yeah. And then it happened again like a week later, and I would just like write it down, and it kept happening. And then I kind of just like had something that came together, and I think it was Ryan that just saw it in my notes on my phone and was like, "What is this?" Yeah. I was like, I don't know. I've just been like writing things down. He was like, "You need to do something with this. It's like really cool." Yeah. So then I just kind of ran with it, I guess.
Shout out to Ryan, who is your fiance, who is just taking the world by storm with ASD Fit. Got to get him on here at some point because he's making his own impact. But no, seriously, like even just reading your book and just seeing, even if it started with blurbs, that was the beauty of COVID. As much as it was such a tough time, literally for the entire world, it gave us all so much space to get creative. Yeah. And you know, the title of the book, If You Give a Kid Some Kindness, you're just writing these. If it started with a blurb and then now it's all pieced together, after reading your book, oh my goodness, creativity blurbs come together to make an impact for any kid, any family. Seriously, you have something here. And that's why I wanted to get you on here, because it brings so much light to people. But so with your background in ABA, how did that come into play? Because I guess it's little blurbs, but those blurbs started somewhere. Was it experiences? Was it the love for helping people through that service? How did ABA come to play?
Yeah, so I think that just with my job in general, like it focuses so much on a child's environment and kind of what their parents provide them and how it shapes them. I think that at times we don't even realize that things that our parents did kind of like took an impact to how we developed. Right. So I think that the environment of just like showing a kid that it's so easy to be kind to someone and just showing in what we do day to day so that they can take that and bring it into their development is like huge. So, you know, I work with kids and I teach parents like, hey, if you do this, it'll promote this language development or whatever, but it's the same thing for other actions that we kind of do day to day. So it's just kind of like combining the two of those things.
100%. And even with the work that I do, whether it's working with kids, working with adults, you're 100% right, where everything we observe as a kid, or everything we experience as a kid for that matter, impacts how the rest of our life goes. Whether it's how we then react to people or act to people, or the routines, the daily aspects that we follow. But when you can actually help someone adjust that, and like you mentioned, where if someone didn't experience kindness or love growing up, they might not be the person to show that to someone else. And when I was reading your book, I'm going through this like, oh my goodness, this isn't just going to help a kid understand kindness. A parent that might not have experienced the love or kindness that they want to show to their son or daughter, for that matter, now has the opportunity to heal themselves. Right. And I think as much as we want to help a kid learn kindness, you're also bringing a healing factor to any adult, any person that experienced that trauma growing up, where they didn't understand, wait, people are good? Right. People can be nice? Right. It's incredible. Yeah. So how, like, do you ever, like, that's what my thing is, like, oh my goodness, like, I'm 29 reading your book, and I'm sitting there, I was like, this is helping me right now, you know?
I love that.
That's what I'm saying, right? Do you ever anticipate, or when you were writing, like, oh, this is going to help the kids, when you expand that, like, you're going to help so many people with this book, right? Do you ever think on that and see how much of an impact you're making?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I definitely love the aspect of like, you know, saying like, hey, this is how we can get, you know, pass on the kindness or whatever too. But I want people that didn't learn that growing up to see it and be like, I can incorporate that into my life now.
Yeah.
Just because like I didn't have that doesn't mean I need to like pass on that trauma or pass on that
100%.
what I learned. I can kind of start new and pass it on to my kids. So I think that that's huge.
Oh my goodness, exactly. And that right there, you know, passing that, not passing the trauma on, but passing the kindness on, everything changes when we decide we're not going to follow the environment that we grew up in, experienced growing up. And that's what we're like. I've worked with kids and families out in the inner cities for years now, but it's incredible when you're talking to a parent and you're explaining to them, hey, your son or daughter responds this way to this, and when I'm working with a kid and they're like, you see so much joy coming out of what you're just doing, showing the kindness. And whether it's you're working on ABA or you're working on deeper aspects, people respond differently to these things. And then the parents are like, oh my goodness, like I never understood that. Well, how are you acting to your kids?
Right.
And then when you actually adjust that, is then on the parents, on anyone watching right now, to then make the decision, okay, am I going to follow the steps I always followed, or do I have enough personal strength in me to say, you know what, let's make a better decision and see how it reacts, see how it responds. And the more we do that, the more we change everything for ourselves, but we change the next generation, we change the generation after that. And so I say that to any parent listening right now, how are you responding to your kids? Do you ever take that into account? Do you ever look at that? But then also, if you adjust that just a little bit, what does that mean for everyone following your footsteps? Because if you shine a little bit more light, that means your kid does, and then their kid does, your grandkids, and then so on and so forth. And that's what happens when you give a kid some kindness, right? And so that's what your book captured. That's what I experienced, and that's why even the artwork in your book, when I'm looking at all these pictures and everything, reading it, and I loved it. And it's to see how you, I forget the name of your artist, and you can give her credit in a second, but you depicted these pictures where here's the light that I'm giving to someone else. And that to me, like I said, I'm 29 reading this, I'm like, oh, that's spot on, that's perfect. But a kid will interpret that image.
Right.
I'm like, oh my goodness, when I sit with someone at a cafeteria table, or if I hand someone this, cat was another example, and so on and so forth, like you're spreading this love that then that person takes with you. But also, we always overlook the impact it has on the person that actually did the act.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So build on that and give credit to the artist, because I saw it on social media, but I forget the person's name. So give credit right now.
Giselle. Yep. She's a friend of a friend, and we just, stumbled into each other. Or I posted one day and I was like, oh, I'm looking for an artist. And then I had a friend reach out and suggest her, and I looked at her art and I was like, yep, done.
Spot on.
Like me and her, we clicked so fast. Like she is just incredible. Like she's been my rock through like the whole process.
Nice.
Like she's awesome. And she definitely captured everything that I wanted to be captured. The artwork idea of like it starting kind of like black and white and moving its way into color was actually my future mother-in-law's idea. Like she like really liked that. And I was like, that's such a good idea. Like visually seeing that I think is so important too. It's just like, if we don't kind of like spread that joy to one another, it's just gonna be this like black and white like world, you know? And I wanted it to show that like once you kind of spark that kindness, like it slowly, gradually turned into this really bright, beautiful book. And there's like color all around and everybody's so happy. So I definitely thought that like illustration of everything was really awesome.
Oh my goodness, I loved it, right? And so that's why, like I said, any kid observing that, like a kid's gonna go with the color first. Yeah. And then seeing that expand, and then the message sits in. Right. You're changing everything. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So with that, to stay on that point of how everything changes and whatnot, paying it forward and random acts of kindness. And I can remember way back on the YouTube channel, I had a message out there, I believe called Become the Miracle, in the sense of a random act of kindness changes someone's life that you know nothing about. Right. Because we know nothing that people are going through. And when we're allowing ourselves this, I'm not going to allow, I think a lot of people might hold themselves back from a random act of kindness out of fear, stress, anxiety, all this kind of stuff. But when you just peer through that and see that someone needs help, or just someone might not be having the best day or whatever it is, and you reach out a hand and help that person, just as your book depicts, changes everything. And then when you realize that you impacted that person's life, it changes your life so much, and you're like, oh, this actually feels good. Mm-hmm. And I think that's such a message that people, when they actually read your book, they might sit on it and observe it. And this is just me going deeper into it, but the emotional aspect that comes into play where you're actually feeling like, I feel good. Why not go out there? And that's what I love, because a kid's going to read your book and then they're going to go to second grade lunch or something, and they're going to sit with that kid that doesn't have any friends, right? And then now you just created an entire aspect right there. And that's why I love the examples you chose in the book, right? So when you were, like you said, you were writing these blurbs and everything, you were doing the illustrations and creating these images, how did you choose the examples for the book? Because they're so spot on to what a kid's going to experience.
Right. I mean, I wanted to kind of choose examples that can be super diverse. So I think that sometimes when people think of random act of kindness, they're like, money. Like, I have to pay for them in line at Dunkin' Donuts. Or I have to, like, buy them flowers. Or I have to, like, buy them this or that. And I wanted to also highlight that it's not just the purchasing of things. Like, yeah, it can be, but also it could be someone dropping something and you picking it up. It could be holding the door for someone. It could just being like, hey, I like your shoes. You know, like, just, it could be small, it could be big, it could be sitting with someone at lunch. So I really wanted to show that there's so many different things, small to big, that can make that huge impact in people's lives.
Yeah, right? And that's perfect right there. And I think, again, coming back to it being a children's book, a kid being able to understand that, because like you said, a lot of people look at a random act of kindness, which is money, which is totally fine. Like, if you're listening right now and you're thinking about giving money to someone that needs it, go for it. But oh my goodness, it's an abundant amount of options with that. Right? And that's what the book captures to me. And, you know, just sitting on that, you know, I want to put that on the viewers right now. What is something you can do after this video that will spread that kindness to someone else? And that's the message I think your book gives to the reader or the child or the parent for that matter. But also expanding that on the message right now. What's a random act of kindness you could do? And to sit on that of this video and then go and do it. Like you said, it could be paying for something. It could just be picking something up for someone else. But like I said, a kid's going to take that and be like, oh, this is so much easier. And then it brings so much joy back to the kid. You know, that's the best part. Yeah. So I love it. I love your book. And, you know, if you give a kid some kindness, it really goes such a long way. You know, there was a testimonial of someone that read your book on your Instagram, I believe. And I believe it was touching on how not everyone is taught kindness. You know, and then when we touched on you being an ABA and everything, but how often do you see it working with kids, working with people for that matter, where they aren't taught that growing up? Is that becoming more and more prevalent in the world right now? Where, like, we see it, you know, sadly society has become where it's become, where showing that love, showing that light to others is becoming less and less. Because I believe COVID had a factor with that, where we all kind of sunk in, we kind of went into our homes and everything like that. However, reaching out a hand has become tougher and tougher for people. So with your work in ABA and you're working with kids, and like we said, the experiences that brought this book together, how often do you see that pop up where kids don't really know what that is? Because that's kind of the aspect of the book where we want to teach these people it, but are you seeing it more and more just with people who come across?
Sometimes, I mean, I think that with the kids that I'm working with, they're so young, and because they kind of are on the spectrum, it's just like all that stress of like the diagnosis and stuff around it that I'm kind of seeing. So I can't really see whether or not it carries over how it is in society. I mean, I, you know, interact with parents sometimes where I can kind of tell like, hey, that's not the path that you're choosing right now, is to just kind of be kind through it. Granted, there's a ton of stress that also comes around it, so I don't take it like personally. I think that a lot of the times, like, what I kind of see is not so much the kids, it's like the parents that I kind of see the backlash of them not having been taught that as a kid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I get that. Yeah.
So I see like the later effect, which is why it kind of goes back to like, maybe you didn't learn that, but it doesn't mean you need to pass that on too.
100%. Right. Exactly. And that's actually the beauty of it, where, you know, I've worked with, you know, people in the ABA field and everything like that, with me working with kids and everything. So we're all working together to help the kid out. And like you just said, your perspective is you're working with parents a lot, you're helping this thing. And then with my work, I'm like literally taking the kid out and showing them the world, trying to help them cope with what's actually in the environment and everything. And I definitely see it more and more where, like I said, I always use the example where if I'm taking, like, if I'm a mentor, if I'm mentoring these kids and helping them just like, you know, work through their anxiety, work through depression, work through whatever it is under the sun that they're dealing with, anger for that matter, And then you're the one, like these kids are growing up in such tough environments that you see. And then you go out and you're like, all right, man, like, let's go to the store, grab whatever candy bar you want. And like, what?
Right.
Like, they have no idea what that is. And like, what do you mean I can get whatever I want? And it says it's like, they're like, I'm like, dude, here, like, let's go get a candy bar, let's go get a bag of chips, whatever you want. And they're astounded. Because one, the environment they're in doesn't necessarily provide that, which could have so many different factors to why. But when me coming in like, dude, let's go to Dunkin's, grab whatever you want for breakfast, man, we'll just get it going. Their eyes widen and let up so much. I'm like, really? And then depending on the age of the kid, sometimes the teenagers come in like, yeah, I took what you said. And, you know, I grabbed, like, there was one time I gave a client, he wanted, like, it was his birthday. I was like, hey, man, go take the, like, it was like a gift card somewhere. Go take this, go do something for yourself. It's your birthday, blah, blah, blah. I come back the next week, he goes, yeah, I thought about what you said, and I used my gift card on my sister and got her this gift. Oh. I'm like, that's what it's all about, man. You did. I wish you got yourself something because of your birthday, but just seeing how, one, it starts with us, and that's what I want people to get. It starts with us, and it's a domino effect to whoever we bring it to. And if we spread that light, one, it just grows and grows and grows, and that's what the illustrations in your book do. It grows. The pictures grows as you describe. But I just want people to grasp that message from you today. It's like, if you give a kid some kindness, heck, if you give anyone kindness, it changes something in here. That's the number one factor.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. Can you build on that a little bit where, you know, to kind of close out the message and everything, with this, if you give a kid some kindness aspect, what do you want the most out of a kid taking this, you know?
I mean, the message is definitely huge. I think that, you know, I had my friend read it to her kids because I just want to kind of see what kids are thinking, see if there's some adjustments that I can make before I kind of put it out there. And my friend's daughter was like, oh, I want to go to school tomorrow and do something nice for someone. And I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome.
That's all you
want. Like the
right?
first kid that's read this book and that's what she wants to do. And I think that that's kind of like what I want.
Yeah.
Like I want them to be like, oh, cool. Like, just because so-and-so is mean to me doesn't mean I'm going to reciprocate that. I'm going to go to school and I'm just going to like pass that on. I'm going to start something new.
Yeah.
So I think that that's definitely probably the biggest thing that I want people to take away from it. And then like you were saying with the parents, have parents take it away too and just be like, how can I pass that on to my kids? How can I just like restart this whole thing for myself as well?
100%, right? And that's why I love it so much, because you create an impact in the home. And as we know, being in the field, the home environment is number one for what a kid absorbs in, because you're there most of the time. So if your book is the light that is able to expand in that, or the love aspect, you can say, that expands in that home to heal everyone, all right, that's a changed household.
Right.
And if it's a changed household, like we're in the field, we know what that means for the entire family.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Yeah, no, you did an incredible job with the book. And, you know, to build on what you just said before we kind of close everything out, I popped up with a coaching client the other day. She's out in Canada, so I'll give her a shout out right now. But we were going over how the questions that we run through our head make such a difference. Where every single thought that we have, and we teach this in our seminars and whatnot, every single thought that we have is a question that we're asking ourselves. And when our thoughts are in a kind of downward angle, or the questions of like, oh my goodness, why does this keep happening to me? And we're constantly asking the questions that bring us to a negative area. We're going to get a negative result. We're going to feel negative. It's going to just create our entire reality that we're living in. Why I bring that up right now is because with you teaching a kid this act of kindness, and the first kid that you brought it to said, oh, I want to go to school tomorrow and see who I can help. You're then changing, one, the question of the kid, the thoughts that they're thinking of, like, how can I help someone else? And when you ask the question, when you wake up one day, heck, maybe tomorrow you wake up and you ask the question for yourself, who can I help today? How can I help someone today? Your brain naturally goes on the lookout for, what can I do? It brings that aspect in. And this is me just taking it to another level and connecting all the pieces together. But if we're teaching our kids this at a young age, to not be on the focus point of me, but to be on the focus point of you, in a loving way, in a light way, you change everything around you, because you're then looking to, how can I spread love today? How can I help someone today? And if you're on the lookout for that every single day, you're going to find it, for one, or you're going to naturally change everything in your environment to, one, feel better, to look better, to observe everything around you better. And the beauty of that is it all started from you. And like I said, that's me expanding the entire thing, but that's me reading your book in a different level, being like, oh my goodness, I know being in the field what this is going to help a kid with. I know what's going to help a parent with. I know how this is going to create such a positive impact. And why I say all that for a children's book is because you listening right now, you viewing this right now, you watching, take this book, all right? We're gonna completely spread the thing as much as it pops up because it's in the beginning phases, right?
Kind of. I'm hoping to have it published within the next month.
Phenomenal, right? And so that's the beauty of it. So you're watching this right now at the beginning phase. So you can get this book right away the second it goes out. And I'm going to be spreading that link everywhere that I can because I know how much this is going to impact households, families, kids, and everything. So for you to get this book and then start the process to help your son, your daughter, your family for that matter, and how they can then spread the kindness to someone else. As I said at the start of this video, you're no longer just helping, oh, this is a fun moment of reading a children's book. What a kid does with that is so powerful because it changes how they see the world. And if that's where our world has become, where we, because of COVID and everything like that, and sadly everything that's going on in the world, we start to look at the world in such a darker place. But when you shine the light of this children's book back to people, when you show them what kindness can do, you then take it and shine light more to everyone around you. And again, that's me building this whole thing up right now, but that's what I got from reading it. And that's me reading it and trying to really pull out the details. But if you read it just at level 1, and then your kid takes it at level 1, see where that goes. Because you never know what one little moment can change with someone. And reading a children's book, having that moment with your kid, your son or daughter, oh my goodness, that's what I loved growing up. Mm-hmm. It's just sitting there with my parents, like, oh, this is cool. And like Winnie the Pooh, whatever the heck it was at the time, right. Probably Green Eggs and Ham, that was a great book. But you know, I'm sitting there like, I love those moments. Right. And, my brother just had his first daughter and everything, so they're gonna have those moments. That's what, when I read your book, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely getting this for Georgia Rose. Shout out to my niece, But I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, this is gonna impact so many people. But no, like Aubrianne, I give you so much credit for, it started with a blurb, and then, shout out to Ryan for bringing the pieces together and like giving you that like inspiration. Like, hey, you have something here, but seriously, you have something here, and people will have something here that grab this book. Yeah. So, me saying all that, what's one lasting message you want to leave with people? Like, obviously, the book is getting published. Mm-hmm. Where do you think, I'm going to put your Instagram account at the end of this thing, all your links and everything, so they can stay on track with the book. But what do you want to leave with them? One lasting message that's in your head. If you give a kid some kindness, what do you want them to know?
Oh boy.
Right? Why not? Just take it on.
I don't know. I think that the biggest thing with the book is just kind of, you can take it for what it is. It's a fun story. It's cool. The illustrations are great. Shout out Giselle. Or you can dive deeper in it. You can really use it to teach a lesson. You can really pass on the bigger meaning behind it, or you can take it as a lesson for yourself. Whatever you want, you can make something great out of the message behind it.
Right? Exactly. And I love that. And every single page brings that to people. So I appreciate you so much being here. I'm glad that I was able to find you, thanks to Ryan and spreading the book and everything, but find you right at the beginning of it, because I want a random act of kindness. I want you to spread your book because I know how much it's going to help people. So that's why I say to you guys, I'm going to put the links out there. I'm going to spread the links out there. Grab the book the second it's out there because I know it's going to create such a positive impact. However, take that kindness and spread it to someone else, just as you did by taking it and putting it on the paper. Yeah. Awesome. But I appreciate you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah, we'll get you back on here once it's out here. We'll get a physical copy to show people.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Right? No, we'll do that for sure. But guys, I thank you so much for viewing this video. I thank you so much for being here. Like this message on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up on below. Share this message to someone that you feel needs to hear it. Whether it's someone that just wants to learn about how can I bring a random act of kindness to someone else today, and just spread that message, or share it to a parent, a new parent for that matter, anyone for that, a grandparent who would be interested in this book. Because believe me guys, I read it the other day and I go deeper into things. However, at face value, this is going to change someone's life. And that's the beauty of a children's book, because it just starts in a playful way. But when you're a kid, it's those random playful moments that you're just having with your friends, your family, that create such an impact in where your life goes. Start it with that. Domino effect begins. Share it to someone that needs it, guys. And lastly, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed some more, because every single Sunday we're bringing you a new message, new guest, whoever it might be, and helping you with where you are. But again, Aubrianne, I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the